Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Meeting of the Minds webinar, Smart City Transformation Roadmap, Delivering Better Financial Governance and Management. We have a presenter from Oracle today who I will introduce in a moment. My name is Jessie Feller-Hahn, and I'm the Executive Director of Meeting of the Minds. Some of you are new to us, and some of you are old friends, so let me just explain quickly. Meeting of the Minds is a global thought leadership platform with year-round programming. Our mission is to connect global urban sustainability, innovation, and technology leaders across sectors to share best practices, tools, and solutions through our blog, cityminded.org, our monthly webinar series, pop-up events, and our annual summit. This year, our annual summit, Meeting of the Minds 2016, will convene in the San Francisco Bay Area from October 25 to 27. A few housekeeping notes to begin. Because of our large audience in attendance today, you will remain muted throughout the event. We will have a Q&A session during the second half of the hour. When you have a question, please type them into the questions panel in your attendee control panel as you think of them. In addition, a PDF of today's slides is already available in the chat window. There's a link there in your attendee control panel. We will also be sending a link out as a follow-up email after the webinar. We would also appreciate your input today regarding today's webinar, so a short survey will pop up when you close your browser at the end of the event. So without further ado, today's presenter is Werner Maritz, who's the Director for Public Sector and Infrastructure Industry Strategy at Oracle. As an industrial engineer, Werner has spent 16 years in the engineering and construction industry with a focus on large capital projects, management, and control systems. Werner has been with Oracle Primavera for more than 3 years. So Werner, take it away.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Jessie, and great to be part of Meeting of the Minds webinar yet again. Oracle Primavera is part of the Oracle Corporation, which is a publicly listed entity in the United States. And as such, I just want to flash out the safe harbor statement for a moment to all those on the call today. The Oracle Primavera organization has really been part of big infrastructure transformational projects for the past 33 years. And our mission is really to help transform the world by helping organizations to plan, build, and operate critical assets. Whether these assets are at national level, provincial level, or local government level, or even in the private sector, we service the entire community. Now, even though large transformational projects have already occurred, looking forward, the world is definitely still developing large infrastructure projects. If we look at the work from McKinsey & Company, they predict about $57 trillion up to 2030 to be spent on infrastructure. And we can see here from the analysis quite a big chunk of money going into roads, rail, power, water, telecoms. And this is typically also the type of infrastructure that's being built in our small, medium, and large cities around the world. Hence our involvement with infrastructure development projects around the world. If we look at our customers implementing, I must apologize, there's a slight delay on the slides showing up to our audience, but it doesn't matter. Why do our customers really focus on infrastructure development around the world? I think especially in the developing areas and developing countries, the use of infrastructure projects as a catalyst for economic development is often used. We see large economic stimulus packages launched by national or local governments, even at the metro level, trying to use these infrastructure projects to really get the economy going again. Also, city level or administration is really trying to cope with big urbanization challenges and how they can provide improved services to the citizens within these cities. And then also to promote regional integration and the development of economic corridors. If we think about large metropolitan areas situated in close proximity to each other, infrastructure projects, things like roads, rail, power transmission lines, those cross metropolitan boundaries quite often. And as the infrastructure along these boundaries improve, so does the economic integration of the different metropolitan areas also improve. And then Fourthly, our customers use infrastructure development these days to really correct the historic underinvestment in both infrastructure development and infrastructure maintenance. If we think about looking around our large cities, things like deteriorating road surfaces, deteriorating water and sewage connections, those type of things need to be fixed within a metropolitan area. And infrastructure development is actually part and parcel of improving those services to the citizens. Now, these are large projects that we're talking about, and they bring some challenges to our customers and our potential customers for that matter. And some of these challenges that is actually presented through infrastructure development is the question of where should our customers invest. The investment in infrastructure is quite large and diverse, and the question is also how much money to invest in which sections, and then also how to secure funding. And the securing of funding for large infrastructure projects in the metro is really a big challenge to organizations who don't have the balance sheet strength to actually fund projects directly. Another big challenge to our customer base is how to deal with very long duration projects. If you think about the establishment of a metro rail system, a large infrastructure project for roads, or even dams, water reticulation, electricity reticulation, these projects can easily span more than one or two political administrations within a city. So the question on the mind of our customers, how do they deal with, for example, data and documentation that spans these very, very long duration projects? In a city space, there's also a lot of stakeholders around these infrastructure projects. So multiple stakeholder organizations, a lot of communication lines that actually need to be followed, and making sure that everybody's working on the same basis on project information at the same time. We all know the story within contract management. If people don't work on the same information on contracts, especially in big construction, then there's bound to be some challenges around contract change management, which we can discuss a little bit later. And then, as a fourth point, for our city administration and city managers overseeing a very large portfolio of projects, the lack of real-time visibility into project performance is really hampering their ability to provide management insight into projects and take on the corrective action on these projects. And working with many, many customers around the world at national, local, provincial government level, we see a number of negative outcomes associated with infrastructure development projects. And this is also evident around the city space. As I mentioned, cost increases on contracts due to uncontrolled scope changes on contracts. That's a big, big problem. And we've seen with some of our potential customers as much as a 50% or more cost increase on contracts, purely because there's scope changes which are not controlled on those contracts. The challenge is also the availability of resources, the correct resources at the correct time on a project. If you think about doing projects around the city, there's a challenge in terms of logistics, moving material and people around the city due to traffic congestion. So if the scheduling of those resource requirements are not done properly, that can have a significant cost impact on a project in a metropolitan area. And then due to the large number of stakeholders in contracts, our clients often report a challenge in terms of payment disputes that arise due to incorrect invoicing. And the incorrect invoicing is purely a matter of too many manual systems being run within the city project portfolio and an administrative burden at the end of the accounting period, end of the month, which results in incorrect invoicing and incorrect payments being made to the contractors. And that's a big challenge in these areas. And then something which really has got an impact on our citizens in the city area is once the infrastructure projects are actually being built, how do you bring those infrastructure in the city up to capacity as quick as possible? thinking about a new railway terminal, a new bus terminal, a new airport, a new Wi-Fi system within a city, really planning the operational readiness and the testing and handover phase of the project is quite important. Because if you don't bring the new facility up to capacity, you can easily use millions of dollars in lost revenue, which negatively impacts the financial model of the new infrastructure. It's a big challenge to our customers. Now you might ask, where do we actually focus from a smart city projects perspective? Where do we actually help? And our involvement with these projects is quite wide. From metropolitan regions, a cluster of different cities in close proximity to each other, counties, small towns, districts. Really our focus is anywhere where a city administration need to plan and coordinate the delivery of infrastructure to benefit the lives of the citizens within that area. So when I talk about smart city transformation, it's not just about the large metropolitan areas. It's also about the smaller areas that really need to improve the productivity of their infrastructure to provide better services to their citizens. Now, when we start talking to our potential customers, there's a couple of key considerations we need to ask them. And the people that we speak to is really divided into three groups. The first is the group of people who head up the city manager, the executive mayor, the chief information officer. And the questions we often ask them is very simple around, do you have a solution that can build the smart city transformation roadmap? It's about the visibility into all the little projects that make up the smart city transformation process. Do you have visibility of that? And unfortunately, often our potential customers have to report, no, they just do not have that visibility because all the initiatives live in different departments and different people's laptops, and it's very difficult at city management level to have that visibility without proper systems in place. The next level down, the question would be, can you translate the ideas for smart city transformation into actionable plans? How do you turn an idea into action? Without the actionable plan, the idea is absolutely not going anywhere. And the big challenge for our cities and our customers is really how do they integrate their spatial planning with their infrastructure planning. Without the visibility of what infrastructure is already in place, mapping that to the growth of the population and the need of the population, and then mapping that to the actual proposed and live projects, there is not a good way for the city management to take control over the spatial development of the city. They actually need a solution to help them do that. And gaining financial control over project expenditure without clear visibility into project performance is really a big challenge for most either chief financial officers or treasurers around our cities. And that brings us to the actual project managers, the people who really need to make the projects work and deliver on the objectives of the projects. And our questions to them is normally around contract change management. Can they manage their contract changes? Can they manage their risks on the projects? Can they actually protect the city's reputation through proper risk management on the projects? Can they enable their workforce to be mobile? It is not a good idea for project people to just sit in an office and try and manage the projects remotely. You need to get the people out into the city space where the projects are actually happening and enable them to work away from their desk. But at the same time, they must feed information in an intelligent platform that can provide the city managers with the ability to make informed decisions. Now we see the challenges of cities at three levels. The first one is from an environmental sustainability perspective. Second, from a social sustainability perspective. And then thirdly, from an economic sustainability perspective. And I would like to take some time and talk a little bit more about the economic sustainability challenges for our city management related to the smart city transformation. Cities, as we know, they are growing urban populations. As many as 150,000 people per day are migrating from rural areas to cities. So there's a big pressure on our cities to actually cope with the influx of people. But this influx of people come at the backdrop of decreasing financial and human resources to actually deliver on these services. Always need to be more efficient in what they do. Their headcount is reduced. So the challenge and top of mind for the city officials is how do they do more with less or more with the same resources as they had last year. And more people bring more environmental and social conflicts. And really to launch all the projects within the city space needs money. And with more cities and more project initiatives, more infrastructure being developed, there's really a big competition for public and private investments around the city. Where does the city find money? And it's in response to this question of obtaining financing where better financial governance and better project management is really the key to success for our potential customers. Now, potential customers have got some challenges besides just economic challenges. They've got to ensure for some parts of the population just basic human rights should be met. Human dignity, safety and security must be in place. But at the same time, there's a wealthy part of the population and they need to deliver lifestyle demands for the richer part of the city. And it's really a big challenge, this balancing act for the city management between keeping the wealthy people happy and making sure that their prosperity remains, while at the same time making sure that the lower income part of the city is actually looked after. Really a fine balancing act in terms of how money is being distributed. Now, obtaining money for and funding for these projects, we look at organizations that do development financing for projects. We look at public-private partnerships, and often these organizations report to us the money is available, but they've got two challenges in actually allocating the money for project development within the smart city transformation process. The first one is the availability of investment-grade project opportunities. And the second one is they want a certain level of assurance that adequate financial controls and project governance processes would be in place during the project implementation phase. People providing funding for infrastructure projects do not want to think that their money is going to be wasted during the project. They want some assurances. The question to our public officials is, how can we as Oracle Primavera contribute to the financial governance on smart city transformational projects? And the answer is quite simple. We can assist them with an enterprise project portfolio management solution, a process that governs the analysis of which projects to do and then how to do them, to make sure that we select the right projects, actually bring a big cost saving to the city because unnecessary projects or overlapping projects between different verticals within the city is then not implemented. And following a good project process brings the governance that the funders actually require. Now, the other thing that we can provide to our city management looking after the project portfolio is to help them with a platform and a process to do holistic planning across all the infrastructure categories within the city, combining the needs of healthcare and education, telecoms, power, waste management, really making sure that there's an integrated and holistic view of requirements from the citizens across the city. And having this visibility then enable the city management to balance their expenditure across the different verticals. making sure that there's not areas within the city with too little or too much expenditure, but that they take a holistic approach across the city. And in response to this, looking at our 32-year history within infrastructure development, we've responded by defining the Primavera Smart City Project solution. And it's really to help our current, new and potential customers to leverage our rich experience and history within infrastructure development in an easy-to-deploy solution that will bring value to them and value to their project environment very quickly. And basically, there's 5 building blocks to the solution. The first building block is around monitoring and evaluation. How do we actually make sure that the right people at the right management levels have got insight into the project selection, but as well as project portfolio performance across the entire asset lifecycle. The second functional building block is around planning and selecting the right projects, the portfolio management process, the analysis process, to make sure that the city management can select the right projects. Third functional block is about building these projects. How do you implement it with confidence? How can you provide predictable outcomes? The governance around contract management, cost management, schedule management, risk management. That's the focus of the build area. And then the fourth block is the operational phase, is making sure that once the assets have been put in place, that they are maintained properly to make sure that they perform as intended at design and operational capability. And here we think about things like a train station, an airport, a hospital, university, and a school, the maintenance of those facilities. And then all of this is underpinned by the Oracle Primavera technology from Oracle. Standard building blocks really provide easy-to-deploy solutions to our customers. And each one of these phases, plan, build, and operate, have got specific benefits to our customers. Now, this is not the all or nothing type of solution that we bring to the cities, but actually they can deploy a portion of the solution to address specific business pain points that they may have in specific phases of the projects. And one of the important things here under the planning phase, for example, for our cities, is the selection and the qualification of vendors. Are the vendors that's being selected, the contractors and the suppliers, going to deliver value to the city in doing these projects? So the whole quality analysis there. During the building phase, a big challenge to our customers is collaboration. How do many people work together? So the Oracle Primavera solution for smart city projects is really focused around this collaboration phase. How do you get everybody to work on the same platform, the same data at the same time? And then in operations is really the transitioning from project phase to operational phase. That's important. How do you go from, for example, an airport build project to airport operational phase? Those operational readiness planning phases there is quite an important bit where we support our customers. Now, working with the cities, we've identified 10 benefits from a smart city solution, smart city project solution to our customers that really bring value to them. The first key benefit to them is really this alignment of their program with their strategic objectives. Being able to show that the money they are spent is actually spent in aligned with the strategic objectives and the requirements from the citizens. The second point, which has got a big impact on the financial governance and project management ability of these projects, is the setup phase of the project. Are we following specific processes to make sure that we can follow repeatable delivery on the projects? The third one is performance monitoring, is the concept of dashboards, performance dashboards, aligned with spatial planning to understand, is the money going in the right areas, the right development corridors, the right parts of the city. And coupled with that is then making sure through business processes that we can ensure governance and auditability of transactions. There's no use a transaction occurred over email. That transaction should occur within a system related to a business process where we can follow up and make sure that we know who did what, when on the project financial management. Formal scope and change management to really address that issue of contract growth is important to our customers. Document control. If you hand over a project, a large project, with thousands and thousands of documents, drawings, and specifications, how do you actually make sure that everybody works on the same basis of information at the same time? And the Primavera solution actually brings strong document tracking and control to the environment. Something which is always important to the treasury and financial people within the city is to make sure that the project portfolio solution can leverage transactions out of the ERP for historic costing. So our solution provides them the ability to integrate this forward-looking project portfolio solution with the backward-looking transactional control perspective. There's something which is not utilized well within projects is risk management. So our solution brings strong risk management capabilities, both qualitative and quantitative risk management, to the project space for project managers to leverage. And then second and last is the ability to collaborate. Dave, I see that the slides are not actually transitioning, but the ability to collaborate is quite important. So support for mobile interfaces, mobile technology, leveraging the Wi-Fi networks around the city is quite an important thing, getting the workforce out of the office and making sure that they can visit the project websites and be productive on the go. And then lastly, a big plus point for our public sector customers, specifically around cities, is the ability to use standard contract management forms. Forms like an NEC3, which is popular across UK and Europe and Sub-Saharan Africa, or FIDIC contract forms, or any specific contract form that a big project wants to use. Making sure that those processes are predictable and repeatable is quite an important component of the solution. I've added in just a selection of our sample customers within the infrastructure and city environments. And if we look here, there's a lot of airports, transportation, water, parks and schools environment. So a huge array of customers using the Oracle Primavera solution within the components of the greater smart city. And if we delve into some specific use cases, I think it's important to understand just some components of why specific customers are really successful. There's a large European airport project, and the question would be why was this £2.3 billion project very successful? I think some components like contractor alignment through systems, effective risk management, contractor engagement, but also tolerance for raising issues, making sure that communication flows, using standard contract formats, and then the last one on the list, using a standard project delivery system, making sure that all the stakeholders related to this particular airport, which was completed well within time and budget, actually worked on the same platform, was a big benefit to them. Now, many of our cities actually is responsible for airports, and as such, if we look at the San Francisco airport, they also run a large project portfolio, and some of the benefits that they've derived is the ability to collaborate with different parties and use a standard scheduling tool like Oracle Primavera P6 for collaboration between all the different parties. Closer to my own home in South Africa, one of our big deployments in metropolitan areas, The City of Cities as such is with the Gauteng Department of Infrastructure Development, delivering social infrastructure. This project was delivered with Accenture as an implementation partner for us. And really they got control over all their different projects by implementing the Oracle Primavera solution, implementing standard project control and project management processes, and integrating the solution with the ERP. So very much all the plus points I've mentioned is what they've implemented. And I would like to just run through a couple of what I call the use case for Africa to just show some of the things that they've implemented or busy implementing within the monitoring and evaluation space. And the City of Cities, as the Gauteng province is well known. The first question for them was the alignment of projects to their strategic objectives, alignment of the investment map essentially for the different projects. The question from the city management was where money is being invested, and you see every color there represents a different section within the multi-metro environment called the Gauteng province. And the intention here is really to bring the solution into the boardroom, being able to map spatial development to project location, being able to map how not just the point projects like schools and hospitals are progressing, but also how things like road resurfacing, new road development is actually progressing, and providing an easy user interface for the city management to see specifically how projects are progressing out in the field. Making sure that project performance is up to date is quite an important component of their management, and having the knowledge that the dashboard information is really supported by key components like very, very strong schedule management on the delivery of the projects within the social infrastructure development around the city. A big question for the city management is how can they improve the efficiency of projects, how can they find out which activities have got the biggest impact on specific project performance, and the solution brings that ability with it to really focus and target management attention on areas of that need project improvement. Risk management is a very important, and actually being able to consolidate project level risk into portfolio level risk, and allowing the city management to really take decisions at a much higher level to mitigate the risk associated with the delivery of the projects. For them also the understanding of how the distribution of money between different departments are actually happening. You'll see here the split between Department of Education, Energy, Health, really for them to form an idea of where the value is going for the projects. But of course, the Central Treasury Department for the deployment is always asking the question around cash flow. When do they need to make money available? So being able to consolidate from project level to portfolio level across multiple expenditure years, an accurate forecast of where and when money is going to be spent is quite an important one for the Treasury. And combining that with the strong capability of financial insight and control, project cost reporting, cash flow forecasting, making sure that you're not dependent on an Excel spreadsheet that lives on somebody's laptop for financial control in the project is quite a useful tool to show governance and control to potential investors within the city. And talking about the investors is the question of where is the funding coming from, where is the funding going to make sure that the exposure to specific funding sources is well understood within the city, and making sure that specific departments have got a balanced view in terms of where money comes from, and that there's not an over expenditure which results or an overly reliance on specific funding sources in specific departments, which would bring a risk should that funding source fall away to that specific department. And then also an important component for this particular metro is to say, how is the money that's being spent on social infrastructure development actually supporting different organizational objectives in terms of where they want to improve the city over time, making sure that funds are spent or spread in a balanced way across the different areas. The assurance behind all of this is to make sure that there's traceable business processes in place and that changes to projects and contracts cannot just be made without due authorization. Also matching the project workload with the available resources, help them to better plan their recruitments and making sure they've got engineers available, and transitioning from project to operational phase is the actual leveraging the solution for preventive and corrective maintenance of specific parts of the social infrastructure being spent. And then lastly, making sure that between the project development and the maintenance, that people are actually working optimally by leveraging available technology, Wi-Fi systems, analytics, mobile technology within the smart city transformation process. If you would like to know more about our smart city project solution, feel free to visit our website at oracle.com/Primavera, and there you would find a number of assets explaining the detail of the solution, the value that it brings, and how to further engage with Oracle in bringing this valuable solution into your specific metro area to facilitate smart city transformation programs. Lastly, around the world, both in Americas as well as outside of Americas, there's a number of people dedicated to this. Feel free to reach out to any of these individuals listed here should you need additional information on the detail of the Smart City Project Solution brought to you by Oracle Primavera. And with that, Jessie, I would like to hand back to you for clarification of any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Werner. Great stuff. We already had 2 questions come in for your contact information, so this slide is perfect up here. So we will go now into a Q&A session with Werner. Please, if you're an audience member, you can enter your questions into the questions panel in your control panel to the right. We have a few questions that have already come in, and I'll let all your questions come in, and we will use the rest of our time for this Q&A. So we have one question already, Werner, from Gianni Carbonara, who says he's from Kasser Lab at UCL London and former head of the Municipal Unit and Advisory Services for the European Investment Bank. His question for you is, to what extent have you been able to secure funding which would not have been otherwise forthcoming by using the portfolio approach you have described? And to what extent was that generated by exploiting city potential assets as opposed to relying on external finance, which of course is increasingly difficult in many jurisdictions? Do you have any case studies, examples of that?
No, thanks, Jessie. I think our role must just be clarified a little bit. We do not do finance facilitation. Our role is to assist our customers in providing their external funding agents with the assurance that good governance processes are in place. And for example, the Gauteng department I've shown up, and also the development banking for Southern Africa are pointing case in those environments. So not our role to facilitate funding, but to help our customers in showing good governance. Talking about European Bank, divert a little bit to the World Bank. For example, the World Bank has got an open contracting standard requirement, which we can quite easily support for our customers, as well as in some areas of infrastructure development. If World Bank funding is used, then the World Bank recommends the use of, for example, FDIC Red Book contracts to do that, and our solution can support the management of the FDIC contracts. So it's really to help our customers to show governance in place to talk to their external funding agents.
Great. Thanks for that. Gianni, we hope that answers your question, but if you have a follow-up, feel free to enter them in there. We're going to actually ask a polling question right now to the audience to find out a little bit more about our audience and what your needs are out there. So feel free to answer this poll very quickly, and that'll help us in addressing any follow-up questions and follow-up materials for all of you. And then we have, while this poll is happening, I have one other question, Werner, from you, from Gordon Feller, who's a consultant at Cisco. He says, during last month's Meeting of the Minds webinar presented by Royal Bank of Canada's head of municipal finance, Chris Hamill, it was clear that we're now seeing the emergence of new infrastructure project development models. Specifically, that webinar was on public-private partnerships. So Gordon's asking, will we see new technologies from Oracle to support these new kinds of approaches? He's referring also to those types of infrastructure contracts which go beyond the build, own, operate, and transfer. So is Oracle working on other platforms like this, or do you feel like the Primavera platform can address those kind of changing infrastructure development models?
Well, thanks, Jesse. Yeah, one of the models that we're actually working with is the public-private partnership model. So again, our role in that is the public-private partnership model brings together a number of different organizations that need to work towards a common goal on the infrastructure development. And it stops being a customer and a service provider, but more of a partnership. And the ability of the Primavera solution to facilitate collaboration and information sharing and insight, traceability and accountability of different transactions during the project actually helps these public-private partnerships to form a more open relationship with each other and a more trusting relationship, because the information is now available where all the money is being spent within the public-private partnership. So I'm working with some large ENC companies in sub-Saharan Africa specifically, who are doing many of these public-private partnership contract models, and for them that is quite a big benefit, that they can share the information openly with the public sector partners within the agreement.
Right. Thank you for that. Well, our poll results came in from the first poll. It's interesting to see who's on the call or on the webinar. 50% of our attendees say that they somewhat leverage project data to provide decision support analytics on key APIs. So that might be interesting for you to see, Werner, on who's on this webinar. But perhaps, Dave, we could launch the second poll, because that might be helpful as well.
Yeah, I think, Jesse, back to the answers from the first poll, that's more or less what we also see there. There's a small group of excellence that really utilize the information, some people in the middle, and quite a big portion of people who still need to get to that point of leveraging the data to gain insight into their project performance.
Interesting. Good stuff. Okay, good. And we have our second poll up. We're also just trying to get a reading on who's on the webinar today. If you guys on our webinar today have control over contract change management, and then also if you have questions, please continue to enter them in the question panel for Werner. So we'll give you a few seconds to answer this poll, and then we'll be able to see the results. And more questions should be coming in soon as well. So with that, let's see. There we go. Werner, any response to that? The results from that poll?
Let me just wait for it to. Yes, I'm not surprised. I've got a little laugh about it. But yes, the fact that so many people respond that they don't have control over contract change management, that is really indicative of why we've got such 50+% growth on contract values. during infrastructure and smart city projects is because people just simply don't have systems and processes in place that enable them to manage the contracts according to the letter of the agreement. And that really brings challenges to both contractor organizations as well as other organizations to be able to manage these contracts better and make sure that there's better predictable outcomes on the contracts. And that's really one of the areas we are targeting with our smart city customers, is to help them to have a platform and process in place to manage these contracts better. And then it's one of the number 10 benefit was really standardized contract approach, which would bring benefit into this area.
Great. And I know that we didn't have time to show all of the case studies and use cases that today, because you didn't have an entire hour. But I'm wondering if you can share one other case study that you weren't able to get to for the audience. Maybe perhaps one of the airport projects that you feel like really used the Primavera platform in building efficiencies that would not have existed otherwise in the build out.
Yeah, let's do a small comparison. There was a large airport development out in India where during the construction phase they had over 1,000 engineers per day on site and over 30,000 construction workers without any real systems to manage that. And that brought a big bunch of challenges to them. In comparison to some of the airports I've mentioned there, where a system was put in place and really a specific contract form was used, that helped people to collaborate. It helped with open and honest communication. It helped with proactive de-risking of the project because people really came forward with the issues. And at the end of the day, it helped that project to be completed on time and very close to budget with good operational readiness planning in opening of the terminal. So it's really between having good systems in place or just hoping for the best between the two.
And my question is, Werner, if they had not used the Oracle Primavera platform, what would they have used to manage that project that would have worked through various departments?
Of course, there are many types of project portfolio management solutions on the market available. And some of them are good in one area, like specific on document control, for example, or specific just on dashboards. But we aim to provide a full solution across the whole asset life cycle with Primavera. Unfortunately, we see most projects, multi-billion-dollar, multi-billion-pound projects, actually being run off the back of something like Excel. So when I speak to customers and they ask me, who's the biggest competitor to the Oracle Primavera solution for infrastructure development, my unfortunate answer has to be spreadsheets, email, PowerPoint, and Word, not a system. And what that often brings is that if there's key members on the projects, for example, a project scheduler, who's not working on an enterprise scheduling platform, it often happens that that particular scheduler runs all the information on their laptop, and tomorrow they find another job somewhere else, and they actually leave the very big project, and they take all the information with them. So it presents a big challenge, a big risk factor to the project managers within infrastructure projects, not running on a system and depending on the people contribution to retain knowledge. Knowledge is best retained within a platform where you can access it in, because we normally see high churn rate of personnel on big projects, especially towards the end of the project when they start looking for other jobs. Then you lose information quickly.
Right, interesting. So what's the smallest project that you've been a part of that's used the Oracle Primavera platform? A school district or a building out of a school, or
We've got solutions for a wide range of people, and it really ranges from a single person on a laptop for a small project that fulfills many roles to large multi-thousand users within large programs. So there's some small developing property development companies, infrastructure development companies with 5 or 10 or so people. We find a small type of organization normally is with around 25 individuals that interact with a specific project from an owner and a contractor perspective. If you think about the document controllers, the cost controllers, the contract administrators, the planners and schedulers, risk management, there's around about anything between 17 and 25 individuals on these projects, up to very large organizations with, as I say, up to 8,000 individuals on a single deployment, looking after a new power plant development. So we really cater for a wide range of types of infrastructure development projects and programs.
Great. Maybe we can launch the third poll while I ask you this next question from Asan Asanoff. He's asking, in a city like Rome, how can the administration introduce such a management tool while avoiding political traps? That's a very interesting question.
I think that's a trick question, because I was actually, just over a year ago, I was invited to speak at the Infrastructure Development Conference in Rome. And there was a lot of challenges brought up within this forum. And one of the most important things that surprised me is basically it's very difficult to do any civil works around Rome, because every time you dig a foundation, you find an historic artifact, and it actually causes a delay on the project. So that's why I'm saying it's a trick question, because I understand from that discussion it is a challenge. But it's better to have a system where you can collaborate and record all the events within the project. Let's say you've got a specific schedule set up for the project, and something like I discover an artifact happens, at least then you can record that there's a potential change within the contract, there's a suspension of the schedule, you can track the actions and communication and decision and risk mitigation process related to that. So you can still bring the governance and the process into the project, although you're working in a very challenging environment for infrastructure development.
Great. Thanks. Let's, Dave, let's launch that third poll just to get the last results that we can from our attendees today before we wrap up. So let's get the answers to this poll going, and then while we're answering that poll, I have a question, Werner, for you. Are you finding that the majority of projects that are using the platform are urban projects, suburban projects, or rural projects?
Actually, what I find the most is where there's like a transport authority, a Department of Transportation, a utilities organization like a city power department or city water department. It's mostly within that city area where the solutions are being used. The unfortunate thing is, talking to many customers, is that the focus is often department by department. So the Department of Transportation have got system and process in place, and the Department of Water or Department of Electricity have got a system in place. But the real value comes when you combine the information and the planning from those different departments into one area, where you can then leverage on work being done in different departments. If we think about when you walk down a big city, there's normally somebody digging up a pavement somewhere to put in either a pipe or a cable or something like that. Now, if we could leverage and collaborate between the different departments and only dig up the pavement once or dig up the servitude once and put in all the necessary services at the same time, there's a whole lot of money to be saved and efficiencies to be gained within the city space just because we coordinate fairly simple things like opening up the servitude to put in pipes and cables.
Yeah, interesting. It's a silo issue for sure.
It's a silo issue.
Yeah. Joseph McCormick has a question. But before we get to your question, Joseph, I want to just, Werner, any reaction to the polling answers?
Yes, that's why I'm in business. It's because many people still have the opportunity to leverage the power of a portfolio management solution. If we think about the second poll and the answer about not having control over contracts and contract changes, and related to this answer of not actually using a project portfolio management solution, those two things go more or less hand in hand because cost and contract management is fundamental to the project portfolio management solution. So it's quite predictable that this is the outcome, but there is the upside potential for organizations to leverage project portfolio management to correct those challenges like the lack of contract change management.
Right. And our follow-up survey will ask the attendees what sector they're in, so that might also reveal some explanation of this 74% versus 26%. But we have two minutes left, so I'm gonna have ask Joseph's last question, which is, do you have any projects, Werner, in China, specifically in Shanghai, that you can reference?
Unfortunately, I am personally not very involved in China and Shanghai. We do have a team of people on the ground in China, and if the person who asked the question can pop me an email, I can put them in contact with our teams in China. We do have people on the ground in China. Of course, China presents a big smart city transformational landscape, a big area of airports development, a lot of money being spent there, and also a lot of opportunity in spending that money more wisely with leveraging a project portfolio management solution like the one that we've just discussed.
Great. Well, this last slide has Werner's email, so feel free to email him, werner.maritz@oracle.com. And with that, we are going to have to wrap up. Werner, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everyone, for attending. That concludes our session, and just a reminder that a short survey will pop up once you close your browser. We greatly appreciate your feedback, and we hope to see you at next month's webinar on our blog at our annual summit in the San Francisco Bay Area in October, and more information on all our events is available at cityminded.org. So with that, Werner, Beata, the Oracle team, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you very much, Jesse.
Okay, great. Everyone have a great day.